Very interesting morning, I must say. And one of my guests just said "hey" without even realizing what Johnny had said earlier. Issa Hussaini is a former MP for Okankwe North constituency. Now you be careful when you say "hey," because you're not sure where you'll be placed. Oh,
have I even said it?
you said "hey."
Oh no, I mean,
no, you said "hey" far from what Johnny was saying. But then, of course, we have to draw some comparisons here and there. How are you doing?
I'm good, but I said "hey" because I was quite taken aback to the editorial I just witnessed. It's kind of I don't know, but hey, good morning to your viewers. Good morning to
does it not make sense?
The legal luminary.
We've moved from breaking the A's to breaking the A.
I don't think so. I think the whole world finds itself in a unique situation, and it's not unique to Ghana, and we have to grapple with this some of these things. And so it is something that the people at the helm of affairs are actually working at, and it won't happen overnight. But I urge Ghanaians to be patient with us. Some of the things are way beyond our aid. But you see, Johnny asked a question: what happened? From what we said, whilst in opposition, you could see that earlier times, pre-COVID times, everything was on track, including the proverbial debt to GDP ratio that today we are looking at.
Our debt has increased, by the way. Now
it's increased basically because of the currency, but if you look in dollar terms, it is nothing to actually worry about. Yeah.
Okay. Well, also joining us this morning is lawyer Edudi Tamaklo. He's a member of the legal team of the NDC. Good morning.
Good morning, Bella.
How are you doing?
And, good morning to my friend Hussaini. It's interesting, eh?
Edudi addressed me as his friend, did he?
Are you not friends?
Yes, a very good question. But what I find, is, anytime we meet, we come back to our pre-2020 predictions. And on this very set, I told him that we're going to take that seat for the first time in 24 years. He doubted me, but we put in energy, efforts, and with Obana.
You have to always remind him.
Oh yes, yes.
But friends don't do that to friends.
No, because on the platform. It was on this same platform that time where
the people of Okankwe North have sold their colored TV for black and white.
They sold their color for black and white?
Yes, that's what they're saying today. That's the saying across the constituency.
That's what they're saying?
Yeah, that's it. So
but
they're
a number of them complained about you as well.
Certainly. I am not perfect. And no politician is perfect. I'm human. So I have the downside.
You say you call their youth Sakawa boys.
It is not true. It is not true. You can play the tape. I can give you the opportunity.
My other friend, Ken Crunchy, the last time the people in the constituency, they were saying, you see, if they had voted for Ken Crunchy during the NPP primary, during the NPP primary,
we had a
done better. And that Issa was just not on top of this.
Issa is hoping to come back. Let's move away from this. We're not here to talk about this. We're not here to talk about the
people simply wanted Obana. And they claim that you can't disrespect the people of Okankwe North. They made the best choice. What they have now, really, is the color TV.
Well, let's see how it goes. The next 2 years, and then we'll know if they really made the best choice.
Exactly.
But today is the 21st of March.
I've stayed away from any
Leave
public.
it. Don't worry, we're not here to talk about it. No, leave it. I brought it up. I was asking how you're doing, that's all. But today is the 21st of March, 2022, and it's exactly 2 years since the president announced the closure of borders, land, sea, and air, after we had recorded some number of COVID cases in the country. Now, fast forward after a while, on the 1st of September 2020, that same year, the air borders were open, allowing people to fly in and out. But unfortunately, the land borders were still closed. And over time, people have asked for the land borders to be reopened and have the measures that were implemented at the airports also replicated at the land borders, just to check who has COVID or who may be coming in with COVID or not. Those calls were not heeded to. We were told that there were some illegal routes that had now become popular for people who were moving across the borders. And so let's quickly take a look at what the president said exactly. And after that, we'll speak to Chris, a reporter. He is at the Paga border in the Upper East region, and that links to to Burkina Faso. So we'll speak to him shortly. But let's take you back to 21st of March, 2020, and listen quickly to what the president said.
All our borders that is by land, sea, and air, will be closed to human traffic for the next 2 weeks, beginning midnight on Sunday.
Because they will try a good phone so no.
We have to take pictures and send to others to buy goods for us. And sometimes the goods aren't what we want.
We say normally sika instead of say they can sika on the corner utia in and out almost 60 cities.
We pay almost 60 cedis for a trip in and out. Previously, we would have paid just 5 cedis.
My COVID in my name say 5.
All right, and those were some traders also sharing with us what their challenges were after those borders remained closed for about 2 years. Now, over this weekend, we had government officials also converging at Peduasi to discuss the way forward with regards to the economy. And of course, the closure of the borders was one of the topics that came up, according to the Information Minister, Honorable Kojo Ponkuma. So he tweeted and said, yesterday and today, Nanado has been engaged in meetings in preparation to announce the easing of restrictions at our borders and tackling escalating fuel prices. Let's cross over now to Chris. He is at the Paga border in the Upper East region that connects to Burkina Faso to tell us what the situation is like on the ground at the moment. Good morning, Chris. Chris, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Bella. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. And so we've been told that likely in about 2 weeks, the land borders will be open. But you are at the Paga border at the moment. What can you report?
Bella, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you also hear me?
I can hear you, Bella.
Okay, so I'm saying that we have been told that it's likely in the next 2 weeks the land borders will officially be open. And you are at the border right now, Paga to be precise. What can you report on the ground?
Yes, so where I'm standing right now, Bella, is the Paga border in the Upper East region. And as can be seen in the background, when I got here and the people realizing that I had come because of the information that government will, in the coming days, ease some restrictions, especially on the reopening of the borders. In fact, the atmosphere here regarding the feeling of the people is very great because according to them, over the past months or years, since the closure of the border in 2020, economic activities have been greatly impacted negatively, and for government to rethink of reopening the land borders is something that is good news to them because they will start to do their economic activities very well, which will improve upon their livelihood, Bella. So I have some of them standing right behind me, and I'll be engaging them. Please, good morning. We are live on New Day on TV3. Okay. Yes. So government has indicated that in the coming days, they will be easing some restrictions, especially reopening of the borders. I want to find out from you what is your feeling like.
Okay, it's true. My name is Eru. So after the suffering here is not easy. Even the border, this and that designing, they are designing. Why coming to Ghana? Welcome to Ghana. So the thing breaks up to 25 years. They didn't do it. When you are coming to Ghana, it's supposed to show you are coming to Ghana. Welcome to Ghana. Why is that this and that? That is happening. They are breaking.
So how is the easing of the restriction going to help you in your livelihood, your living?
For the living, we are that this and that. Everybody is suffering here. It's not easy. The close border, you know that this one we are just coming. The Burkina people will come, a sweater, everything they will buy. But now, where is the this? Why is that? Now, why is that this in the cities? The cities go because of that. No. Coming and you see.
Okay, so what this man is trying to say is that the cost of living has been high, and because of the closure of the border, the city is just going up, and so cost of living is very high. I have another woman, madam. I want to talk to. Yes, Obekati. Nana Adu Abai Adrese Enche Obebi Payama Mot Miako. Burkina for state Sasem no say a bomwa, and Mwaba in the Bebro.
The patrol, Nanado, 2 bad, Yahuchi, Papa, the D5 city. Yahuchi, what's your father? A pia, I had any your color, your papa, your friend, honey. And to Panano 2 and a higher. Then say yellow. So, what a house, yellow, say yellow, be a bit map to pen. They and another by and a higher. They said, man, and scan open pound room. Until you want to pa and to our yes, pa won't be about them. They can't see you. Who say, maybe not welcome to Ghana? Who say it's war? You are there at the front or move like them. Who say, who's about a name?
No, almost welcome to Ghana.
Yes, the penal better my. They said that I didn't want a mat about a come. Will show you Ghana.
You have been doing business. You have been doing business across this side and that side. Since the closure of the borders, how has this affected
you? But I don't even know the reason why they even closed the borders. Well, they said the sickness is there. So we haven't experienced it here. And so the closing of the borders truly we suffer a lot. Nothing is new.
Christopher, can you hear me?
Our market women, those are doing business across.
Christopher, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Bella.
All right, so the sound is not too clear. It's quite inaudible, and so I don't know if
Bella,
we can.
Just say that what these residents are saying is that over the period since the closure of the border, it has affected economic activities because they are unable to go to neighboring Burkina Faso where they usually go to do business. And those from the Burkina Faso area are also unable to enter to do business. So it really affected them. And for them, the call for government to reopen the border is even long overdue. And now that government is considering reopening the borders, is good news to them because it will help them in their economic activities. But one of their major worries is that there used to be a wall indicating that welcome to Ghana. But over the past 5 years, that wall was broken. And so it doesn't look nice when you get to the border and crossing. So their appeal is that after the reopening of the borders, government should come and reconstruct that wall indicating that you are now welcome into Ghana.
Okay. Thank you so much. Christopher Mwako is a reporter. He's at the Paga border in the Upper East region, and that links Ghana to Burkina Faso. Well, we've been told that it's likely in a few days the borders will be open officially. Isa, I'll start off with you. I remember that sometime, in December, there were calls, even the minority called for the president to announce the opening of the borders, and he said that it was not time yet. In fact, what he said was that we're monitoring the level of threats of the disease and ongoing vaccinations in our neighboring countries. And as soon as we're satisfied that it's safe to do so, the borders will be open. Do I assume or presume that this could be the reason why we've been told there's a likelihood the land borders will be open now?
Bella, I want to take this issue from the genesis of this whole land borders being closed. At the height of the pandemic, it was pretty understandable that the virus moved with the movement of people. And so globally, movements were curtailed. We experienced our own form of lockdown in Accra and some big towns. I mean, Europe, China, and the US. I mean, we're just grounded, we're locked, just to forestall the movement of people since the virus moved with people. The president did make a statement then that we're going to take measures to save life, safeguard life. At the time, I mean, maybe 2 years ago, in March of 2020, we didn't even understand the virus so much. And so we needed to do things that forestalled the movement of the virus. And amongst the measures taken by the government of Ghana was the closure of all borders, not just the land borders initially. President did state also that he was going to be led by science and figures, exactly what we followed. At a point when it became clear that at least we could manage the movement of the virus because of the infrastructure installed, at least at the airports. We could monitor who is going, who is coming. We could do the testing and all of that.
Yeah.
But given the nature of our borders, it was quite difficult. And because of the volume of people who actually cross the borders. I hear at some parts of the borders, in fact, there are families who live in either side of the border, so they cross so many times. I hear some people even live on one side and will even have to go to do their very private stuff on the other side of the border. So it was quite dangerous to monitor some of these things. And so at the time these borders were closed, I didn't think there was a lot of uproar. But essentially, these borders were closed also to human traffic. Merchandise and all of that have been able to flow through the borders all this while with a very minimal human movement. Although it's also very obvious that the closure of the border did not necessarily forestall the movement of people because of a lot of unapproved routes. I mean, all of these are things that we should be looking at as a country, because the pandemic is taught us a lot of things that we need to adjust our lives to. I mean, going forward, because you wouldn't know what the next big threat to our very existence is going to be. So these are some of the things. Thankfully, we've seen the impact. We have managed the effects of the impact quite well around here. Other countries were quite hit in very unsavory proportions, but we're still feeling the impact in one form or the other. The economics and all of that are rebounding. We are beginning to understand the virus better.
Okay.
I have taken my jabs. I'm sure many of us have taken, and it takes away the threat of death.
But what was the science behind opening the air borders and leaving the land borders? Because when it came to the air borders, of course, we also ensured that there was a testing regime at the airport.
Certainly.
Why could we not also do the same at the various land borders instead of allowing people to cross illegally into the country without doing any tests?
I mentioned the nature of our land borders. They are not like the airports. Everybody coming in by air, I mean, it goes through some regime to ensure that they have the necessary documentations to come. It is not so with our land borders. It's a huge stretch. People just cross like that. So it was also.
But that's where the problem is, then, is it not? Because clearly we have not secured our land borders well enough. Because
that is why I went on to even mention culturally. I mean, we are so interlinked. We have families living on both sides of the border and all of that. And so it was just impractical to introduce or implement the sort of regime that we had in our airports on our land borders. It was impractical.
Were we concerned about the businesses that were reeling under the economic hardship
that
at that point?
That is why.
Because even if you were allowing goods to go in and out, human traffic was curtailed. So who were the people who were going to buy whatever goods you were bringing in and out of the country?
That's what I said. People could, I mean, in these days of e-commerce and all of that, people were encouraged to go that route. I mean, you could go that route. Merchandise still came in, merchandise still left. So,
but who was buying? Because the traders at the borders, and I remember that our colleague in the newsroom, Nancy Vokania, also visited the Aflao border and another border. I think it was the Lubo border, and the traders were complaining. In fact, they showed us how their goods.
Traders could be complaining.
Their goods were getting destroyed because nobody was buying, and they didn't understand why the borders
nobody
were
was
still
buying
closed.
To the extent that the borders were closed.
Well, yes, because they have people who come and buy from the other side. Both sides of the country come to the borders to shop.
Merchandise could still move.
No, it wasn't moving. We saw bags that were destroyed because they had been in the shop for over a year. We saw other goods that were destroyed too. And they were asking, why are you not opening the land borders so that we can also make some money?
Whatever the challenges were, economies were closed down. People in Accra, people in Kumasi couldn't leave their homes to go to their work.
But that didn't take too long compared to closing the borders for
because
2
at
years.
the time, I'm still making a point. At the time, even there were no vaccines at the point. We didn't know the impact the virus could have on our very existence. We saw people dying in thousands per day in other places in the world. We weren't too sure what was going to happen, so we had to take those very difficult measures. When the president announced it, he didn't say it was going to be a fanfare. He knew they were going to be they're going to have long-term impact, even on the economy. Because look, every government would love to see goods come in and go. Would like to see commerce thrive. It is the way you build economies. It's the way economies grow. And nobody will want to curtail some of these activities for the fun of it. At the time, our very existence was being threatened, and nobody should also think that we've gone. Yeah, we probably have gone beyond the very trying times at the earlier parts. In let's say this time 2 years back. This time we were in very uncharted waters. Economies like China, they are still struggling. And I'm even hearing that there are even still traces of this virus. It is mutating in other forms. It is coming in other forms. Let's proceed cautiously.
Okay.
We have now observed. We have a very good idea. Unless we have had a lot of the people around that area take the jab, unless the threat of death is taken off, even if you contract the virus. So let's just not take this thing for granted. On the hindsight, and maybe we have the benefit of the hindsight today, but at the time we didn't, and we had to take the necessary measures to ensure that we were led. And like the president kept saying, he was led by the signs of the time. We didn't understand the virus. There were no jabs. We didn't know where we were going, and so over time, now that we have been able to get to this, I don't think we should actually relax, given what is happening in places like China. But I don't think that anybody should be faulted for some of this very difficult decisions that needed to be taken at the point.
Council, no one should be faulted for the very difficult decisions that were made to keep the land borders closed. Do you agree?
You see, Bella, you were asking very important and probing questions, and I saw the difficulty in my friend in putting up the answers. You see, Bella, let us not deceive ourselves. The first time COVID came into this country was not through our land borders. It was by air. The very first two people. Yeah. It was not through land borders. There was a subsequent decision to close the land borders. And the managers of the system then claimed that they were working with the benefit of science and data. At the time when they were making this claim, for instance, the number of persons who had COVID in Burkina Faso, in Togo, were less than the number of persons who had COVID in Ghana.
At the time the borders were closed?
Yes, at the time the borders were closed. Two, from all indication, you will notice that the movement within country in terms of the transmission of COVID, that's within Ghana, was actually the ish. Because only 2 people came, and subsequently the numbers started spreading, even with our borders closed. Now, you know, hype men of government said, look, the virus moved when people moved, correct? Now, we felt that with this conversation, everything that we're doing within the country will be one that will ensure less movement of persons, correct? But then you will notice that in the midst of the closure of our land borders, before the 2020 election in August, we decided to do a new voters register, correct?
Yeah.
You remember? Now, question. At the time when we decided to do the new voters register, was it the case that the virus was no longer moving with the movement of people?
But they ensured strict adherence to the COVID protocols.
My dear, I participated in the voters registration exercise. We all saw how in some places it was even chaotic. This whole business of, you know, adherence to COVID protocol and others is neither here nor there. If you tell people that before you can cross the borders, you need a nose mask, how were they going to flout that? Because there are persons at the borders.
But how are we going to test those people as well?
No, but the people who went to the voter registration, they were not tested. They just went there with their mask.
But they were not moving outside the country.
No, but But the virus moved within the country. Correct. In Greater Accra, it took only 2 people. What is our national score today? So it is people, person-to-person transmission within the country. But the point I'm making is that for a long time, the border closure was more political, and I will explain to you. How so? I will explain to you. You see, if you look at the geopolitics of this country, and you look at the fiscal location of our country, you notice that the principal land borders of our country are, quote-unquote, the strongholds of the NDC. Now, let me explain to you.
But really?
Please, calm down. From Aplao, you move to Kwetoi, you move to Inkwanta, you move to Tinjase, right to Paga. Look at all the constituencies within those regions. Now, one of the biggest politics of the MPP has been this conversation that there were foreigners on the last voters register, you recall. And so a political decision was taken that with the benefit of a new voters register, you needed to close the borders and ensure strict adherence. You saw the deployment of the military in all the land borders during the voters registration.
But they said it was not because
but we knew what it was. It was purely politics.
But that's not what government said.
No, but I'm telling you.
But I'm telling you. The security at the borders.
Look, you see, at that time, they claimed that, okay, we needed a security there to ensure that persons will not move, and that was why the soldiers.
Exactly.
Immediately after the election and the voters registration, are the soldiers there? I'm asking you.
You tell me.
No. The soldiers were immediately removed. The whole idea then was to ensure a minimization of voter registration in the strongholds. It's a simple calculation. And that is why, like you pointed out, at that time, the conversation for the use of the military was that, oh, they were there to secure our land borders. Immediately after the voters registration and the election, the soldiers were removed.
But if you think about it, lawyer, I remember that the figure was given as to how many people were already on the voters list. We were told that there were foreigners, and so we had to control that. And then we did a new register, and the number was not any different.
Exactly.
From the numbers that we already had.
That is why we are saying that the MPP had built a narrative led by Dr. Mahmoud Bamia. You remember that lecture he did? He built a certain narrative that there were foreigners, particularly Togolese, and even said they were using facial recognition technology to remove those foreigners. You remember the famous 70,000 names. And since then, nothing had happened. So when the need came for the new voters register, it was a perfect opportunity to do that. And I have always maintained. And like the voters registration exposed, this whole conversation that there were foreigners on our voters register was a very xenophobic conversation chaired by the MPP at that time. But when the new register came, even with the closure of the borders, the numbers were not different. Clearly showing, please.
Reduced by about 500,000.
Clearly showing that the persons who were, in fact, in those regions were actual residents. And I always use myself as an example. My name Tamaklo. If you go to Aneho, there are many of my people there. Okay? Many of my people there. If you go to a place like Dikpelo after Nkwanta, there are a lot of Adeles there, but they are from Ghana. They go, farm, do everything there. But the mere fact that the person is resident there does not denationalize him. But I'm making this point that at that time, all this thing was a trumped up conversation by the MPP, basically because they had told themselves a lie. They have believed that lie, that the people out there were going to come to Ghana to register to participate in our electoral processes. But like the numbers eventually showed, it was not significant, even though the borders were closed. And that is why they have had it so much difficulty. Why? Has COVID left the country? Why are they opening it now? This whole business that, oh, today a lot more persons have vaccination, and all of those things. We are being told that the vaccination does not stop transmission. Correct.
No, but even
I'm saying
the likes of the UK,
I'm saying that.
They have
hold
said
on,
that
hold on. I am
we are
saying
easing
that.
the restrictions. In fact, they scrapped all restrictions.
Absolutely.
Because people have taken the jab. And
No,
so
but
even
you are
though
not
it will
getting
not
my point.
prevent
No, you are not
the
getting my
infection,
point. You are not getting my
at
point.
least to a large
You are
extent,
not
it's going to
getting my
control
point.
it. No?
If you look globally, the statistics, the African scenario has become a great scientific mystery. Scientists, molecular biologists are asking the question, how come that in the European and other countries, the number of deaths associated with COVID was so high? But when you come to the African continent, save South Africa, the numbers have become relatively lower. What was the cause? Was it because of genetics, or what exactly happened? It is all of these are scientific, puzzle that people are trying to find solution to. But what is not in doubt is that the mere taking of the vaccine does not, in and of itself, stop the transmission mechanism. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
It's still, we saw the last wave, even persons who had taken the jab still went to the hospitals.
Yeah.
They had it, among other things. But the greater point is that we have consistently begged this administration, especially the people within the land borders, that principal economic activities were being affected by the closures of the borders. All this conversation to persons in government fell on deaf ear. They kept telling us that they were using science and data. Meanwhile, between you and I, in the 2020 election, what kind of campaign didn't we, or NDC, MPP? We're having the massive campaigns.
But the president said that he was trying to control the likelihood of
It is
a
no,
fourth wave.
But you see,
a fourth wave. And so that is why it was not time yet to open the borders.
My lady, between you and I, our president had been saying a lot of things. But we all engage in the massive rallies. Was at that point, the virus no longer moved with the movement of people? Is that what we are saying? Let us not take the words of these people for anything. Because the truth of the matter is that everything they do, they look at the very parochial partisan interest to them. Today, why we are where we are is that, you see, the movement of goods and services and others also prop up the economy and the economies of those areas, and even including taxation. You can imagine if you open the borders and there are free movement of goods and services, you can imagine the amount of tax revenue that will be making there.
But goods and services never stop moving.
No, what I'm saying is that beyond the goods and services, there's greater economic activities and the speed at which they move. And while these things move, you are making money out of it.
Okay.
Today, we are where we are, that we find ourselves in an economic quagmire. We are thinking of all scenarios how to get out of that quagmire. That it has now become relevant that we open the land borders to allow greater movement of goods and services.
Is that not good news then?
No, that is why we are saying that this has been our prayer to persons in government since. Look, I recall the MP for Jomoro, Dr. Stoffy, press conferences led with the Western Regional Caucus of our party. Honorable Ablajifa Gomashi repeatedly, the MPs in Chiana Paga, in Kwanta North, they've repeatedly begged this government, open the borders for our people to freely move. It fell on deaf ears.
Council, if today, it is going to be open.
That is why I'm saying that if today they are out of that slumber, hallelujah and praise be to God.
Okay.
This has always been the conversation. And you see, H.E. John Dramani Mahama...
Land on this for me, please, so I can go back
H.E. John Dramani Mahama in a few days raised the critical issue of the borders being open and also the issue of the test. And I'm sure that after he's getting his a bite, I'll come back on this issue of the testing,
at the airport. We'll come to that, but let Issa respond to a few of the things that were raised.
That on the hindsight, people like my friend here, the NDC, could say whatever they wanted. But let's look at the experiences in other economies. Well, I mean, I'm a football fan. At the height of COVID, you saw what happened. I mean, the game virtually came to a halt everywhere in the world, just because of the interaction. And I still find it very difficult for them not understanding why at the critical time like it used to be. Look, the point has to be made that prior to 2017, these borders were open 12 hours in the day. It took the NPP government to open those borders for 24 hours.
And then we went to zero.
Unfortunately, we went to zero because of the peculiar situations we're faced with.
2 years, was that not too long? Was it a political decision that was made?
It was. I mean, he could say whatever he wants. I don't want to get into that realm.
But I need you to respond to it. Was it political or not?
It's certainly not political. But if he wants to talk in terms of the of voters register, the number of people who register in the voter register fell short by 500,000. Came down.
By half a million?
Half a million.
Not true.
500,000.
Not true.
500,000.
It is not true.
Oh, the data is there for me.
It is not true.
You could
verify. Do you have your numbers with you? If you're saying half a million,
I am saying it. You can verify.
No, but I'd want you to give me the numbers. If you're saying half a million,
you can go to the
because even before the mop-up exercise, we had about 15 million people who had registered for the voters register.
I am saying peculiar because of movement, and we saw in this new voters register, people hitherto probably might move to go to certain places to register. But because of this time, they couldn't move, or they didn't want to move because of the peculiar situation. But you see, at every polling station, the Electoral Commission made sure that they took steps that forestalled that ensured the minimal interaction of people. Their officers were safeguarded. Everybody who went to a registration center had to go through the protocols. So what was it about? Could you also have imagined us saying that we're not going to have elections because of COVID? It happened in other countries. But we had to take the necessary steps to ensure that our democratic process was not truncated. And government did everything in its power to ensure that this happened.
Okay.
Coming to the security situation, even in the sub-region, it has not been a very normal times. At the time, the Western Regional MP, Honorable Tope, made her press conference. At the time, and for a long time, from about 2018 way into 2020, in our northern neighbor, like a country like Burkina Faso, maybe 3/3 of the country was not under the control of central government. Today, we've seen what happened. So government is also looking at the security situation in the sub-region. It wasn't only the COVID, but we had to do this. Look, not too long ago, Nigeria closed its borders to for a long time to merchandise from the sub-region. They were looking at internally to take things that will, or take measures, policies that would support their economy. So what is wrong with Ghana looking at this COVID thing and taking this vision? What we have said as a government, what the president has said, over time we are learning, we are getting to a point where the threat of this virus, it's been contained relatively okay.
Okay, but why
we are not still out of the woods though.
Why didn't we keep the security personnel at the borders even up until now? Because the borders have still been closed.
I keep stressing this, and he alluded to the point that I was trying to make, that it's such a long stretch that you cannot maintain. It is not like the airports.
But we kept them there for
like
a period
airports
until after the elections.
Oh, but who says that we have withdrawn all security personnel at the borders?
That's what I'm asking you.
In fact, on some borders, we are even putting more insecurity.
Which borders are these?
Our northern border. For
we
what
have
happened in
increased
Burkina
the number of
Faso,
security personnel
and all of
borders.
that. Of course,
so we've not withdrawn.
When you have a neighbor like what pertained in, you see, when it comes to this international issues and security issues, I am not but. For what
but
pertain,
you know that they've increased the number of security along these borders.
What pertain and what happened in Burkina?
Respond.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
We've increased by how many?
By how many? I made it will be what in terms of personnel.
But if you're telling us,
by what many we have to improve.
So you're saying that for a fact,
presence.
all the security personnel that were dispatched to the borders when the land borders were closed right before the voters registration exercise and the elections, they are still there.
No, but you see, we keep saying that.
Are they still there or not?
We keep saying that. I believe.
You believe they're there, but that's not a fact then.
I am not a security expert, but I believe that given what even happened in Burkina Faso today, we should increase or improve upon our security presence.
We should, but you don't know for a fact if we would.
Oh, we would because
no, but
I
you don't
trust.
know for a
I trust.
fact if they were withdrawn from the borders or not. So as
withdrawn.
we speak now,
why would they
you
be
don't know
withdrawn
if
at
they
any
were
point?
still there. But he says that they were withdrawn. So I'm asking you. You speak for government.
I won't sit here and claim to know the movement of security people, but I believe that at every point in time, the people at the helm of affairs will take decisions that will safeguard.
So you don't know that for a fact. Let's move on.
That will ensure that the two of us will go and sleep.
Let's move on.
And wake up.
So why do we still have the antigen tests being conducted at the airport where Ghanaians are being asked to pay $50 and foreigners are being asked to pay $150? I mean, if you go to the UK, they have scrapped all restrictions, and they're saying it includes test and passenger locator forms. At first, they even just left the passenger locator forms, but you could come in without necessarily conducting a test or going through a PCR test. You'd have to do 2 of them, when you step in within 48 hours or so. They scrapped all of that. And they're saying that it's because a number of them have taken the jab. And so at least now we know that it's under control. Why are we still testing? Because if you're going into the UK, you are not required to take a test. But when you're coming back into your own country, which is Ghana, you have to pay some £80, to take a test there. And then you have to pay $50 online, because if you don't take that, you will not be allowed to board the flight and come into your own country. Why is that so?
You see, one of the reasons I've heard people explain away, it's a case of herd immunity. That when a certain critical percentage of the population have been able to take the jabs, which is protecting them from acute impact of the virus, even when they are infected, right? The population gets herd immunity. So there will be instances where there will still be some infection, but the impact of the infection is reduced to the minimal. And that is why today we have stadiums open to full capacity in Europe, right? I don't think that we have the herd security at this time. We have quite a sizable number of the population take the jabs, but we are nowhere near 70-80% that is required for this herd immunity to take place. So we cannot still let our guard down. The second point.
Ghanaians are being asked to pay $50.
I don't think it's a rip-off.
At a point where we don't even know how Frontiers Healthcare even managed to get this deal at the airport in the first place. So Ghanaians are asking.
Is that a subject of our inquiry this one? How
no, but it's all part of it, because I am talking about
where
measures. Where does this money go?
We are today looking at measures that protected us from acute impact of the virus, like it happened in other places, and we are still finding out that it's a virus. It mutates in various forms, and it mutates very quickly. How many variants haven't we had in the last couple of months? And let's not also think that we are out of the woods, because in the last couple of days, I'm hearing that there is a new variant or a new wave in a critical economy, like the Chinese economy.
UK is not out of the woods, but they scrapped it.
That I mentioned the case of the herd immunity. China has probably vaccinated more than it's happened in the UK, but they still having instances of new waves of the virus. Let's not think that we are out of the woods, and so we are going to let down our guard and just
go down
to normal.
Foreigners are saying it's too expensive to fly into Ghana. If you're asking me
it was more expensive.
$150 or $50, because I cannot fly with my family.
It was more expensive.
I cannot do that. And they're asking, where is all this money going? Because the last time we checked, per the statistics that came out between September and December 2020, when Frontier started charging, we made about $17 million US. Only $1 million of that came to the Ghana Airports Company Limited. The rest went to Frontiers. We have no breakdown.
Bella, are we getting into realm of Frontiers and how it is, or we're talking about our borders and all of that?
I've been asking about it. Well, borders, yes, but if you're asking me to pay all that money, should I also not be concerned where this money is going as well?
There are people at the helm of affairs who are taking decisions to safeguard our safety. To safeguard our safety, can you imagine what would have happened if we didn't have a regime at our airport? Look, in the management of COVID, I recollect on the 15th of February in 2020, or thereabout. The regime here at our airport, whilst I was returning from Germany, right, was higher than what I encountered in Frankfurt, because in Kotoka, there was somebody here who was taking your temperature, ensuring that nobody with excessive or any symptoms of the virus got in here. It wasn't in Germany. And also, let's not also forget that there have been other instances of other infections, like the Ebola.
How much were you paying?
Situation
How much did you have to pay for a test in Germany when you
No,
traveled?
at the time, nobody even understood the virus, and so there were no test regimes. In
but
fact,
we have started
no
paying
tests.
here.
But we were checking out people, the temperature of passengers.
Were we paying?
No,
for
there was no
antigen test at the
regime.
airport?
There was no regime. I didn't even.
But
think
that's
that,
not possible.
I didn't even
because
think
our
that we
borders
had
were
technology.
closed. Our borders were closed. When the borders opened, that's when we started charging that $150.
Of course.
So
because,
how were you
they were
traveling?
measured. I said 15. I said February, before all of this closure happened.
Okay.
Before all of this closure happened, there we had a regime in place in Accra that every disembarking passenger, your temperature was taken, your records were taken, where you were going and all of that, just so that we could follow up. That regime was not in place in Germany.
But we cannot compare that to $50 per Ghanaian. If you're coming in, that's totally different.
You see, this $50 or $150 for foreigners and all of that. It is for the testing, and I see nothing wrong with it, because I know that it was even more expensive in other places than in Ghana. So wherein lies the argument?
You don't think it should be reduced at this point when we're looking at also the economy and how it's crippling people and their businesses?
Reduced. I don't know how technology is moved on. I don't know how available some of these are. But those are things that we could actually. But at the initial point, I didn't even know that. In fact, when this whole thing started, we had only Noguchi having the capacity to even determine the virus. Over time, we built capacity in labs in Kolebu, in Kumasi, and all of that. It took time, and at the time when we had to take the critical decisions, when we didn't even understand the virus, when we couldn't even discharge the virus, I mean, those decisions were quite necessary. And I'm very, very happy, and we have been praised, and our president has been praised globally for the measures that he took at the critical time, and he's been quoted.
If Noguchi was doing all those tests, I remember that the excuse I was given for Noguchi was the fact that they did not have the machines or the technology to run those tests. But even when Frontiers was announced as the company that was taking the test, Noguchi cried foul, and they were asking why they were not given the chance to conduct these tests. Now let's go to when ministers designate were asked questions during the in front of the appointments committee, and I'll read something that the deputy actually the Minister of Transport at that time had to say, Kweku Ofori-Esiama. So he said that the figure was raised between October and December. He did say that, but also the fact that the deal between Frontiers Health Services and the Ghana Airport Company was signed at that point when it was announced that the borders were going to be opened.
And that was when?
That was the 1st of September 2020. So Frontiers did not even have the license at the time that they were supposed to have started conducting the tests. Why did we still give the deal to this company? And why was that deal between Ghana Airports Company and Frontiers signed on that day? Could we not have put in measures ahead of time? And if that's the case, why did Noguchi not handle the testing?
On the hindsight, you could sit and be looking at all this. I'll go back to the point that I keep making, that look, we didn't even understand the virus. We didn't have capacity in this country.
So we had to sidestep procurement processes?
The procurement law makes provisions for situations where we needed to make decisions that were else if you have to go through. So you sidestep it? If you don't sidestep a law like that.
So why do we not have details about how Frontiers managed to get the deal up until now? We heard from the health minister during the appointments committee vetting. He said he had no idea. In fact, it was the COVID task force that was handling it, and they had to report directly to the president, so he was not aware of it.
The COVID task force.
He wasn't the only one. The foreign affairs minister said he had no idea.
It reminds me
we heard from the attorney general. Hold on. We heard from the attorney general, and he's supposed to be on the board of the procurement agency or the ministry, and he said that not all deals come to him, so he will not be able to tell or see every deal that comes, and so he could not answer. Honorable Adjasafo was asked, she said she had no idea about it. And it's been over a year. Up until now, we still do not have any explanation as to why Frontiers Healthcare or how they even managed to win this bid. You don't think that Ghanaians should be asking questions about this? Do we not deserve answers?
Of course, Ghanaians have every right to.
So why are we not getting answers? And yet you're asking Ghanaians to pay $50
but I'm
to
saying,
a company that may have sidestepped the procurement process?
I am saying that, look, we are not out of the woods. There are variants that are, I mean, the virus is mutating in various forms. There are other waves in other parts of the world. China today is not as open. In fact, China today is still not open. Passengers can't go and come like we used to China today because they are taking decisions that will ensure that the Chinese people are safe. Why shouldn't we do the same?
Are we not ripping Ghanaians?
Ripping Ghanaians off for paying $50?
Are we not?
To undertake that? I don't think so.
You don't think so? Let me bring counsel
I don't think so.
Okay. Let me bring counsel in to respond to the issue of payments. I mean, former President John Dramani Mahama says that it's time for government to consider scrapping that $50 at the airport for Ghanaians because other countries are easing their restrictions. But you've heard from Issa. He says that in those countries, they have achieved herd immunity. We have not gotten there yet. So how do we ask that they scrap or they cancel the antigen test that's been conducted at the airport?
You see, Bella, we are where we are simply because President Akufo-Addo cooked this deal for his bosom friend, Benedict Peters, the owner of Frontier Health Solution System. And anybody who is part of this political conversation know who Benedict Peters is.
And you can say for a fact that he is the owner of the
company.
He's
the owner. In fact, Frontier Health.
Do you have any...
Yeah, so I'm coming there. Just calm down. Frontier Health Solution Services Limited is owned by Peters Family Incorporated. Incorporated in Ghana. 100% owned by Benedict Peters Foundation, which is registered offshore. That is one thing. That is even more worrying. The parent company of Frontier Health Solutions is a company registered offshore. So the money they are making moves into a Nigerian bank directly offshore. And look, all of this is because of the president's direct association with Benedict Peters. Nothing more, nothing else. Please, when you were talking, I just kept quiet. So far, this company had made $60 million free money to them.
How do you say free money?
No, I say free money because I'll tell you something. You see, when this COVID came, many of us felt that it was a pandemic. What we didn't know, that it was an avenue for profiteering by this Akufo-Addo administration. The reason is this. In all of these difficulties, we use officers of Noguchi to do the testing. You remember in those difficult days, we were relying on the mind, the hands of these workers of Noguchi. And some even contracted COVID, and some even died. So we felt that when an opportunity came for making a little money, we were going to use the services of Noguchi to do this testing at the airport. We sidestepped Noguchi and went for a company without any previous experience.
We were told why Noguchi could not run the test. They did not have the
But you know that even the training of the people, first of all, those times when we were in the midst of COVID, who were doing the testing? How were we able to identify whether you had COVID or you didn't? It was the same Noguchi. And even for Frontier, the initial layout, they relied on consultants from Noguchi. In fact, one of the principal officers involved in that conversation was Professor Ampofo, head of virology at Noguchi. The whole Frontier conversation is just a rip-off, complete, rip-off. Look, they were doing $150 across. Then conversation, they say, okay, ECOWAS, citizens should do $50, right? When these things happen, the minority in parliament began to question appointees of the president when they came for vetting. The health minister himself, who all of this thing was under, came. And he was asked a simple question. How did the government of Ghana engage the services of Frontier Health?
We're told it was sole sourcing.
No, you even beyond the sole sourcing. He said he didn't know anything about it. And that it was the Presidential Task Force on COVID. They engaged the services of Frontier. The minister is a member of that Presidential Task Force on COVID. But he feigned ignorance. It didn't end there. You know why he did that? Then the Attorney General, the principal legal advisor to government, then deputy came. He was asked, the COVID, testing contract, have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? Which company are we engaging? He said no, and that not all contracts come to his ministry. Then the transport minister, Esiama, came. The same question. He said no, he didn't know. It was later that we're now being told that the contract was entered into between Frontier and Ghana Airport
That was Honorable Okoboy at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okoboy at that time was a member of the Presidential Task Force as Deputy Health Minister. You remember?
Yeah.
All these things, the reason why each one of these ministers could not tell us, because they knew the implication. Do you know that at the time we even gave the contract to Frontier, their testing solution had not gotten approval from FDA. Fact. So all these things were sidestepped simply because of the person involved, Benedict Peters, a close confidant of President Akufo-Addo.
Do you have facts to back
Yes,
up?
I am telling you.
You cannot also be making these claims.
See,
lawyer.
See, the Benedict Peters. Just
That's
Google.
why I asked you for facts.
Just go. Google.
It's not a matter of Googling.
Oh, just wait. I say just Google.
Are you lifting the corporate veil?
I am lifting it. Just Google Benedict Peters. In fact, the economic and financial the Nigerian group involved in anti-money laundering and other, he's on their watch lists. So for a long time, he had been more or less fugitive in Ghana.
You cannot call him a fugitive. I'm sorry, but I'd want to dissociate us from this. Because if you call him, that's what I'm saying, that whatever statement you're making, maybe you have more facts. Do you
know the Nigerian...
But until we do our checks, we cannot associate with this.
I know what it is. I am telling you. Just do a simple Google search. EFCC. The Nigerian, economic and like how we have our EOCO here. Ask and just Google Benedict Peters, and every information is there. I am telling you that this man is 100% owner of Frontier Health Services. The only way he got the contract, past all these procurement laws and what have you, is his close association with the president. And you know what they did? And I've always asked this question. If today, $60 million investment is done into Noguchi, you can imagine where Noguchi will be when an opportunity came to make a little money. We could have given the contract to the staffs of Noguchi, who risked everything in the midst of COVID to stand by the people of this country. But when the opportunity came, our president engineered, in fact, the Minister of Procurement, who had now become the Minister for Women and Children Affairs, before the vetting, he was asked a simple question. As our Minister of Procurement, are you aware of the procurement procedure used in the selection of Frontier Health Solutions? She said no.
In fact, what she said was that per the Public Procurement Act of 2003, it was not changed. So her tenure as Minister of State for Public Procurement, was not, let me just read what she said. I think I'm confusing myself. I want to state on record that the Public Procurement Act of 2003 was not changed during my tenure as Minister of State for Public Procurement. So the supervisory minister, which is clearly stated in the law, is the Minister for Finance, and he was the one in charge. That's what she said.
So, and that was a clever way of saying that I didn't know anything about it. You know the Pontius Pilate scenario. I don't know anything. So if anything, go and ask our finance minister. That was our procurement minister. The point I am making is that we are where we are because of the direct financial benefit accruing to persons associated with the president. Look, there is no justification whatsoever for the decision to continue to take $50 from Ghanaians coming back to Ghana. So there's no basis.
Should we scrap it or should we reduce it?
No, we should have even scrapped this long ago.
But we've not achieved herd immunity, have we?
But you see, this whole conversation that we've not achieved herd immunity, why are we now opening the borders? Have we achieved it? Have we achieved it? Just by this, I heard him say, oh, we need 80% score, and that UK, they have done that. That is why they have removed all restriction. You are about opening in 2 weeks' time the land borders. Have we achieved the same herd immunity?
But we don't know if there will be tests conducted at the borders yet. We don't know. We don't have the details.
Look, the testing regime is there. I am telling you that if you look at the timeline,
testing regime is where the borders.
Please. By September 2020, when we decided to open the airport, it coincided with Frontier. And in fact, if you look at the Registrar General Department, and I have done extensive work on Frontier, the company was incorporated in July. August, September, the borders were opened. Then the contract was given to them. So everything was deliberately engineered.
You cannot say that for
Look, Bella, you didn't even know that the company was incorporated in July. I'm giving you that information.
I knew that.
So
I mean, that's public knowledge.
Exactly. And it was done deliberately.
Yeah, but you cannot say deliberately. You cannot say deliberately.
When you say deliberation, intentional.
But you cannot say that.
But that is what it is.
You there, are you privy to information or to conversations
let me use the
that
words,
shows that it was done deliberately?
Let me use the famous words of Dr. Bamia. You and I were not there. But you see, these are matters of public record. And I'm telling you that even the testing protocols were supposed to receive approval from the FDA. They never did. What does it tell you?
Eventually, the FDA spoke and said that they meet the requirement. Because I remember that Noguchi came out and said it did not meet the
issue. I'm saying that at the time.
No, it did not meet the specificity, whatever word that
is. At the time when they started, they never got the FDA approval.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
But subsequently is a different matter. Could you today, as you sit here, put a product in the market without FDA approval?
Okay, let Issa
I'm asking you, Bella.
See, this whole thing of the date of incorporation of Frontiers, I think it's
Issa, just 30 seconds, please.
I think it's a moot point because within the COVID pandemic, at the height of COVID, you cannot even imagine a number of companies that had been incorporated to deal in PPEs because it was a new type of business coming up. We don't know the number of other companies that are incorporated to be able to provide services like Frontiers is doing. So as to when it was incorporated, when it started business, I think it's neither here nor there.
How did they win the
companies contract? can even from my very rudimentary company law could even start contracts before they are incorporated.
How did they give it to them? Because it was sole sourcing, we're told.
So what is wrong with sole sourcing?
But what was the reason? Because they had no experience.
There is absolutely nothing against sole sourcing. And for him for the regime and where he comes from, to be talking against sole sourcing.
Did you follow the procedure for sole sourcing?
Were the procedures followed? Obviously, it should be followed because that's what the access. Obviously, it should be followed because that's what the access.
It should, but was it?
You see, when this whole thing started,
it should, but was it?
Was it? I am not part of the process, but I am not part of the process.
So how do you say that it should be? You're so sure that
I expect that whoever was involved in
even the ministers who were supposed to have been involved said they had no idea.
Let me also make this
point. Let me also make this point.
Do you know that always pointing out to Noguchi? Noguchi at the point we had to build capacity. We had to build extra
Whose capacity?
That is why subsequently labs in Kolebu, labs in KTI in Kumasi, all were given the.
But Noguchi was conducting the test.
Yes, but we couldn't limit everything to Noguchi
Why?
at the time.
They said they had the
because we didn't
capacity
even know where the virus was going. Noguchi we needed to build extra capacity.
Bella, can you imagine $60 million?
We had to make extra investment, even in Noguchi, to ensure that the numbers that we were testing, they went up. So it is not a case of us because it's Noguchi, just Noguchi and only Noguchi, and then we leave it at that. We needed to build capacity.
Of COVID,
so other people
we should not look at profiteering from COVID.
But that's exactly what he has done.
Do you see it that way now? That's what we're doing.
I don't think that anybody.
Please, lawyer, please.
Look, if they were profiteering, there were times in this country where the face masks that what became fashionable was selling at 50 cedis or more. Even,
but that's not what we're talking about.
No, but you are talking about
that's different.
And taking
that's
advantage.
Someone's business. This is a government.
But it was all within. It was all
agenda
within
or
the time.
initiated thing.
It was all within the time.
Compare that
to
someone's private business.
It was all within profiteering.
Ghana Airport Company Limited got only just about 1 million. In fact, let me put out the figure just to be sure. So hold on. So between September and December 2020, the total amount realized from the COVID-19 testing at the KIA was $17,590,500 US. As per the concession agreement, Frontiers Healthcare Services retained $16.2 million US, and only 1.167 million came to the Ghana Airports Company Limited.
Who will write this agreement?
Our time is up, by the way. We have to go.
Who will write this agreement?
We have to go, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Honorable Isa Hussein is a former MP for Kankwe North. He speaks for the MPP. And lawyer Edudi Tamaklo is a member of the legal team of the NDC. And they join me on New Day today. Kindly wish Gladys Buamaduku, proprietress of Sunset Mount School, Patasi, a happy birthday for me. She's 50 years today. This is from her husband, Daniel Buamaduku, headmaster at Greek Nzima SHS Kumasi, and he watches TV3 a lot. And so happy birthday to your wife. Also, Dr. George Asamoah, a lecturer, says kindly wish, it's Dr. George Asamoah's birthday today, I believe. And the name is Nuhu Mohammed Yakubu, alligator from Kole Gono. He says that, what about the chair on the V8? Okay, state protocol. All right, let me just jump on. Happy birthday to building and construction engineer Abdullahi Mahama from your friends here at TV3. We wish you a great day. And also a special one going out to one of our special clients, Richard Niamakwe, founder and CEO of Quick Angels Limited. He's a board chairman of Quick Credits and Investments Micro Credits Limited. It's your birthday. This is a special one from our boss, Mr. Ama, our sales boss. Happy birthday to you, sir, and God bless you. And also glorious 70th birthday to Elder Benjamin Isa Asha. Papa, you've been a blessing to many. We pray for good health and long life for you. And also Derek wishes his baby sister Beryl inside Valley View University a happy birthday. May all your endeavors be fruitful. Proud of you. Thank you to Sheila Bonsu for styling me. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And later we'll be having an in-depth conversation about the VGMA nominees list. And so look forward to having Robert Clark, who is the PRO for Charterhouse and the VGMA board, joining us to give us more insight, and a few other pundits as well. Keep watching. We'll be right back.